Have you ever stopped to consider the unspoken contract we enter when we begin an intimate relationship? We yearn for the mythical open book partner, someone with nothing to hide. But here's the secret truth, whispered only behind closed doors in a therapist's office. Secrecy isn't always a sign of betrayal. Sometimes it's an act of profound self-preservation, born from vulnerability and deep-seated fear. As a psychologist specializing in relationships, I've sat across from countless women wrestling with this thorny question. What do I owe my partner about the person I was before they arrived? The impulse toward complete honesty battles fiercely against the chilling dread of judgment. It's a dynamic tension, a push and pull between revealing and concealing private information, that dictates the rhythm of nearly every close connection. The core of this issue, for women especially, lies in understanding that certain deeply personal details, particularly those concerning past relationships and sexual history, are intrinsically linked to one's perceived value in the current partnership. The double standard, why honesty feels like a risk when we peel back the layers of why women choose to conceal parts of their past. We inevitably confront a societal truth as old as time. The pervasive and punishing double standard. We live in a culture where a man who has had numerous sexual partners is often lauded, perhaps labeled a ladies' man or credited with extensive experience. But for a woman, that same history often triggers instant harsh judgment. She risks being instantly categorized, slapped with derogatory labels, and viewed not as an experienced individual, but as having less value as a long-term partner. This bias is so deeply ingrained that even in our supposedly sex-positive age, many women still feel compelled to significantly underreport the true number of sexual partners they've had to a significant other. They anticipate a horrific reaction, knowing that if revealing 5 partners elicits shock, disclosing the actual 9 would surely be relational suicide. This reluctance isn't merely about protecting ego. It's pragmatic damage control. Many women understand, sometimes viscerally, that disclosing their sexual history can be weaponized later in the relationship. They fear that a partner will use this information to disrespect, devalue, or shame them during future conflicts. It highlights a tragic irony. Honesty, which is the stated foundation of a strong relationship, becomes an immense personal risk. To offer full disclosure is to hand your partner the very ammunition they might use to shoot down your self-worth. In this context, the choice to keep certain elements private transforms from simple deception into an act of self-defense against potential mistreatment and insecurity from the partner. The psychology of private boundaries. CPM theory. To truly grasp the dynamics of keeping secrets, we need to examine the mechanics of personal information management. Communication privacy management, CPM theory, helps us see that privacy isn't just about hiding something nefarious. It's a structured system people use to regulate what they share. Every piece of personal history, whether it's a past deep relationship, a sexual encounter, or a past trauma, is seen as private information that an individual rightfully owns and believes they have the right to control. This is especially true if that information carries potential vulnerabilities, such as the risk of humiliation or relational trauma if revealed. We, as individuals, establish metaphorical privacy boundaries around this information. These boundaries can be thick, like keeping a deep secret, or thin, being very open. For women navigating disclosure, the criteria they use to decide whether to share are often focused on the recipient. They need to feel confident and secure in the person they are disclosing to. This contrasts slightly with men, who sometimes prioritize whether the situation itself is appropriate for disclosure. When a woman decides to conceal a past relationship, she is often responding to the tension between her desire to connect, reveal, and her need for self-protection, conceal. Sharing information fundamentally changes its nature, turning the partner into a co-owner or shareholder of that vulnerability. If the parameters for managing that shared secret are unclear, or if the recipient violates the shared trust, perhaps by gossiping or reacting negatively, it leads to what we call boundary turbulence, a major relational breakdown. The logic follows. If the truth about the past relationship will inevitably lead to turbulence, the woman often chooses to keep the boundaries thick, preserving the current stability of the relationship, even if it introduces the burden of a secret. The female catalog of confidential information. What exactly are the secrets that women prioritize keeping? Research confirms that while men and women both keep secrets, and keeping secrets, for both genders, is generally associated with greater relationship dissatisfaction, the content often differs based on specific female vulnerabilities and societal stigma. The catalog of secrets women tend to shield from their partners is frequently linked to elements that could fundamentally alter how they are viewed morally or relationally. Past sexual and traumatic experiences. This is perhaps the most common category. Women often conceal past sexual trauma or victimization, unwanted pregnancies, abortions, past promiscuity, or even specific sexual interests, like BDSM or pornography use. Why? Because these details are highly stigmatized and often carry the heaviest social judgment. Sharing a past abortion or a history of casual sex risks the partner seeing her as damaged or unsuitable for marriage, regardless of how she has changed. Emotional and physical infidelity, past or present. While both genders conceal cheating, women frequently keep secrets around emotional cheating or past physical infidelity. The motive here is almost universally fear of devastating the relationship. A secret of this magnitude puts tremendous strain on the woman, yet she bears the burden because she fears the catastrophic consequences of exposure, relational conflict, deep rifts, and eventual collapse. Financial secrets. This is often less about protecting self-image and more about practical survival and stability. Women sometimes maintain secret bank accounts or hide information about their true income or large debts. Sometimes this is done to protect the family's future if they perceive the partner as a spendthrift. In some cases, a woman might tell her husband she's broke, not out of malice, but to encourage him to spend so that she can continue saving money for the family's future, believing that their collective future is safer in her hands. Children from previous relationships. In certain cultural contexts, disclosing a child from a previous relationship, especially a son, is a major deal breaker. While many younger women today are forthright, others, particularly older women or those in conservative environments, conceal the existence of a child for fear of instant rejection by a potential partner who might object to integrating the child into a new family. The great motivator, protecting the relationship, not deceiving the partner. Ironically, the primary motivation for keeping secrets about the past is often rooted in protecting the present relationship, not harming it. A woman who values her partner and their life together may look at a sensitive detail from her past and calculate, will telling him this information add value to our relationship? Or will it only cause him pain and insecurity? If the answer points overwhelmingly to pain and conflict, she chooses silence. She is willing to shoulder the heavy, uncomfortable burden of secrecy, the emotional labor of constantly thinking about the secret and guarding its boundaries, simply because she values the partner enough to protect them from unnecessary suffering. This phenomenon is often seen in long-term commitments, particularly marriage, where there is a cultural expectation of a higher level of honesty. To maintain the illusion of complete openness, the perfect, flawless bond, we feel compelled to hide any behavior or history that runs counter to our partner's wishes or expectations. The sin becomes one of omission, not necessarily commission. By not mentioning the past, we hope to sidestep the chilling effect that deep-seated secrets can have on communication pathways and overall emotional intimacy. Take, for example, a woman who had a turbulent, mistake-filled youth involving minor rule-breaking or multiple casual partners. She knows she is a different person now, perfected by those tough lessons. As one expert noted, those past experiences helped her evolve into the perfect version of herself for her current relationship. If she reveals the messy details, the partner might obsess over the past, forgetting that the present version is the hard-won result of that history. She conceals the rough draft to save the masterpiece. When the past becomes a weapon, low self-esteem and jealousy, sometimes the impulse to conceal is driven by a deep well of personal insecurity. Women who suffer from low self-esteem, LSE, which can be cleverly hidden behind a bright, confident exterior, often live in fear of being exposed as inadequate or flawed. A person with low self-esteem is hypersensitive to criticism and defensiveness. They fear making mistakes and, crucially, fear others knowing they made mistakes. They may try to mold themselves into what their object of affection desires. folding themselves into a pretzel to gain the immediate reward of acceptance, even if they know they are presenting a version of themselves that doesn't fully exist. They cling to the hope of a lasting relationship, fearing being alone, and thus they remain with a partner even when they recognize the partner might freak out if they knew the truth. This insecurity often interacts dangerously with the partner's own demons, manifesting in a behavior known as retroactive jealousy, RJ. RJ occurs when a partner becomes intensely obsessed and jealous over the prior relationships or sexual history of their current lover. This reaction is often driven by the recipient's own lack of self-confidence and a deep-seated desire to possess their partner completely. When a partner starts digging, trying to access old social media posts, asking around about exes, or constantly comparing themselves, they create an oppressive, stressful environment. This obsession reinforces the woman's original decision to conceal, validating her fear that the past will be used to harm the present. The anxiety, tension, and need for control generated by the jealous partner can suffocate the relationship, eventually leading to conflict and rifts that were entirely preventable had the past been left in the past. Navigating the secret path, honesty versus harmony. How do we reconcile the need for intimacy, which demands vulnerability, with the risk of pain and rejection, which drives concealment? The answer, like all things in love, is messy and requires careful consideration. First, acknowledge that keeping some things private is normal. As long as you are not lying and the information is genuinely irrelevant to the present and future health of the relationship, for instance, a fleeting kiss 30 years ago, concealing it might be a kindness. Some secrets are simply none of your business for your partner to know, but entirely your business to own. However, certain secrets simply cannot be shielded without severe consequences. Any information that affects the relational reality must be shared. Financial problems, serious medical or mental health conditions, an arrest record, or the inability, unwillingness to have children. Lying by omission about these deal breakers is not relationship preservation. It is intellectual fraud. When the truth eventually emerges, the lie will hurt far more than the initial disclosure would have. If you find yourself burdened by a heavy secret, one that involves significant past trauma, or a history that you fear sharing, the priority shifts to self-compassion. Ask yourself why you're concealing it. Is it judgment or shame holding you back? If so, recognize that trauma isn't a character defect. It's something that happened to you. By focusing on changing your own negative self-perception, healing past wounds, perhaps through therapy, and becoming the best version of yourself, you elevate your self-worth. When you are confident in yourself, you are far less vulnerable to the judgment of others. The goal isn't necessarily immediate full disclosure. It's about choosing partners who value authenticity over an impossible fantasy of purity. Instead of dating someone you fear will freak out, seek someone with similar values who focuses on the person you are now. When you do choose to open up, approach the conversation calmly and constructively, offering context rather than exhaustive, graphic details. Explain that those experiences shaped you, and that the relationship you have now is the treasure earned through that past journey. In the end, the secrets women keep about their past relationships reveal less about intentional deception and more about the immense pressure placed upon them by both society and the anxious desire to protect precious connection. These secrets are often cloaked in the intention of relational preservation, driven by fear of profound societal judgment and the deep personal cost of self-exposure. True intimacy isn't the absence of boundaries. It's the mutual recognition of vulnerability, a commitment to respect the private information we own, and the courage to meet our partner exactly where they are. A beautiful, flawed masterpiece forged by everything that came before.